Today we're exploring one of the most profound mysteries at the heart of spiritual understanding, the paradox of divine freedom and how it manifests through our individual consciousness. We'll examine why God, as pure, undivided unity, necessarily expresses itself through countless individual viewpoints, and how our deepest freedom is actually God discovering its own limitless nature through us. This isn't abstract philosophy. By the end of our time together, I'll guide you through a simple but powerful practice you can use whenever you feel caught by compulsive desires or reactive patterns, a way to directly experience the spacious freedom that is your deepest essence. Let's begin with a fundamental question. If God is complete, perfect unity, all-powerful and utterly free, why does creation exist at all? The traditional image of God as knowing being, the One, points us toward pure, undivided consciousness. But here lies the paradox. As pure unity, there exists no framework for self-understanding. For God to know itself would require a part of God to step back, to observe another part, creating the fundamental division of subject and object, knower and known. This would fracture the very indivisibility that defines divine unity. And yet, here we are. Creation exists. You and I exist as apparently separate conscious beings, each with our own unique perspective, our own window of awareness. This is the profound mystery of creation itself. God dispersing into countless individual conscious viewpoints, not as a falling away from unity, but as the only way the divine can explore and come to know its own limitless potential. We are not separate from God. We are God's own means of self-exploration, the way the infinite comes to taste its own infinity. Think about this for a moment. Every experience you have, every moment of awareness, every recognition of beauty or truth or love, this is God experiencing these things through you, as you. Your consciousness is not a separate entity struggling to find God. Your consciousness is how God knows itself in this particular, unrepeatable way. This understanding completely transforms our relationship to spiritual practice. We're not trying to escape our individual perspective to reach some distant divine realm. We're learning to recognize the divine nature that is already the very ground of our being. And this brings us to the heart of today's exploration, the nature of true freedom. Stay with me, because in just a few minutes I'm going to show you a simple way to taste this freedom directly whenever you notice yourself caught by compulsive patterns or reactive behaviors. So what is freedom really? It is nothing less than God coming to understand its own boundless freedom through us, as us. Most of the time, our attention is captured by what I call the endless parade of the world, the stream of thoughts, the pool of desires, the constant commentary of the mind that usually defines our experience. But when we learn to withdraw our attention from this parade, something extraordinary reveals itself. In moments of deep stillness, and you've probably touched this yourself, we encounter that primordial unity from which our seeming individuality springs like a wave from the ocean. We begin to see each thought, each desire, each sensation emerging from profound silence within, arising without any effort on our part. They spring forth with such ease, such naturalness. And while these movements of consciousness may be correlated with our past behaviors and ingrained habits, they don't seem fundamentally constrained by anything. There's a quality of spontaneity, of fresh possibility in each moment. This is crucial to understand. When this vast reservoir of freedom is discovered, this source that has always been our deepest identity, God comes to understand through our understanding that the divine is utterly unbound by any past behavior. God recognizes its own power to change course, to choose anew, to respond with fresh creativity, even within whatever limitations this particular individual vessel might present. This isn't theoretical freedom we're talking about. When one becomes accustomed to dwelling in this unity, resting as the awareness in which all experiences arise and dissolve, and learns to simply observe all things rising and falling, without feeling compelled to react or respond, one has touched something sacred. One has encountered one's own freedom, which is God's own freedom. At such depths, there is literally no one left to be bound. The separate self that seemed to struggle with limitations and constraints is revealed as a kind of optical illusion, a play of consciousness rather than ultimate reality. And from this recognition, we discover we can return to this place of freedom whenever God's own voice within us calls us home, whenever we remember what we truly are. Now let's explore this directly. I want to guide you through a practice that can reveal this freedom in real time, especially when you notice compulsive patterns arising. The next time you notice a desire arising to do something you'd prefer not to do, perhaps reaching for your phone when you meant to focus, or feeling the urge to react defensively in conversation, I want you to pause and turn your attention inward. Let's try this together right now. Take a moment to recall a recent situation where you felt caught by some compulsive pattern. Perhaps it was scrolling social media when you wanted to be present, or eating when you weren't hungry, or saying something you later regretted. Now, instead of focusing on the behavior itself, I want you to watch how desire arises. Notice how it emerges from the depths of your being, from what seems like nothing, like a bubble surfacing in still water. Observe any thoughts that cluster around this desire, the justifications, the sense of urgency, the familiar mental patterns that usually sweep you along without question. And now, simply remain present as these movements begin to subside. Watch the desire and its accompanying thoughts naturally fall away again, returning to the silence from which they came. Like waves that rise and dissolve back into the ocean, they have no lasting substance. In this watching, something profound reveals itself. There is actually nothing there to force you into action. Ask yourself, what exactly is forcing me to do this? Look carefully for whatever solid self might exist that must obey every impulse. What you discover instead is spaciousness, a vast, aware presence in which desires and thoughts are simply arising and falling, like weather patterns in an open sky. Rest in this recognition. You are not the desire, nor the one who must resist it. You are the freedom itself, the conscious space in which all experiences come and go without binding you to any particular response. This is God discovering God's own freedom through your awakening awareness. What we've explored today points to the deepest truth of spiritual life. We are not separate beings trying to reach God, but rather the way God comes to know itself. Our individual consciousness is the divine's own means of self-exploration. True freedom isn't the ability to satisfy every desire or avoid every difficulty. It's the recognition that we are the spacious awareness in which all experiences arise and pass away, including the very sense of being a separate someone who could be bound or limited. This understanding transforms everything. When you recognize yourself as this aware presence, you discover that you've never actually been trapped by any pattern or compulsion. What seemed like solid, unchangeable habits reveal themselves as movements in consciousness, no more substantial than clouds passing through an open sky. The practice I've shared with you, pausing to watch desires and thoughts arise and fall away naturally, is a direct gateway to this recognition. Use it whenever you feel caught by reactive patterns. In that watching, you'll discover the freedom that has always been your deepest essence, waiting patiently beneath the surface movements of temporary concerns and identifications. This is the great gift of spiritual practice, not to achieve something foreign to our nature, but to rediscover the freedom that has always been who we are. Thank you for joining me today. Until next time, peace be with you all.